there are some applications where plastic actually is better than brass. For example, if you have poor water conditions, plastic is a superior choice, but it's less likely to leak or corrode as brass will. This problem has been complicated by the introduction of no-lead brass, as not all low-lead brasses are created equal. Due to the higher zinc content and thinner walls of the brass PEX fittings, any amount of corrosion can be problematic. So, as you can see, there's still uncertainty between brass and plastic PEX fittings. What's a plumber to do? Enter. Austenitic stainless steels like these are inert against nearly all heat transfer fluids due to the chromium oxide passivation layer covering the surface. I'd like to see you do that with plastic. Among others, there are 3 big reasons why stainless steel PEX fittings are the next generation of PEX fittings, making a way better choice for your plumbing business than whatever you're currently using. To learn more about stainless steel PEX, visit Boshart.com.
Let's start with the tank T specification. The purpose of a pressure tank is to maintain pressure in your system and to give the pump a break. This means that the pump does not run constantly. It is important not to undersize your tank, as it will cost you more money over time. Connections that are built into your pressure tank are typically 1-inch FPT or 1.25-inch FPT for higher capacity tanks. This indicates that the tank T you should order should have an MPT connection in order to join properly. You may run into some brands and models of tanks that include MPT connections, and in that instance, you will need to order the corresponding FPT tank T. There are also tanks that require a specialized adapter. Talk to your inside sales rep, like me, for more information on that. The tank T should always be matched to the tank size connection. It is not recommended to reduce the size of the tank T. Ideally, a 1-inch tank T should only be used on a pump with a 13.5 gallons per minute or less capacity. If your pump provides over 14 GPM, you should increase the tank connection and the tank T size. Be sure to consult your tank manufacturer to gather all the tank sizing information.
Every plumbing and water well wholesaler wants more success, more growth, more sales. But how do I actually do that? Well, bringing on a new product might seem like enough, but it won't help you if you don't know how to effectively sell the product. Wouldn't it be great if everyone on your sales team was an expert in product knowledge of everything on your shelves, responding to the customer objections on products, recognizing upsell opportunities every day? Introducing Boshart Accelerator, the innovative new platform to turn your sales team into product sales experts in 30 minutes or less. With product-based modules that include video training and incentives for graduating the courses, we make learning about selling plumbing and water well products something that they'll actually want to do. You wanted more success, more growth, more sales, right? Fast-track your business's growth with Boshart Accelerator. To learn more, head to boshart.com/Boshart Accelerator.
Now to go into a bit more detail, the 3-piece design has a housing that actually curls underneath the band so that when you're tightening this against a pipe, the housing tabs are actually being held in place between the band and the pipe. Now on the other hand, a 4-piece gear clamp has a housing that's made up of 2 different pieces, the housing which sits on top and the saddle which sits underneath, and they connect through these 4 little tabs on the gear clamp. Now in our extensive quality assurance department testing, we have found that this gear clamp does not get as high of a torque rating because the more torque that you apply to this gear clamp, the housing actually pulls away from the saddle, which means that it's going to fail much sooner than the 3-piece. Now Boshart gear clamps come in 3 different series, the 87 series, the 67 series, and the 77 series. Now our 87 series gear clamp is made up of 300 grade stainless steel, which means it has the highest corrosion resistance possible, making it great for just about any application, especially buried applications. This series of gear clamp truly is the do-it-all gear clamp. The next series of gear clamps that Boshart offers is the 67 series, which is very similar to the 87, except it's made up of 200 grade stainless steel, and it can't be used in buried applications. The last series of gear clamps that Boshart offers are the 77 series, which have a band that's made up of 200 grade stainless steel, but this gear clamp can't be used anywhere where you're worried about corrosion. You'll also notice that the screw is a different color, and that's because it's a plated carbon steel screw.
In addition to the connection types, there's two different styles of check valves that are also seen, and one would be quiet or non-quiet. Non-quiet would be a normal swing check valve, I would say, that has been around for a long time, and basically where the quiet version came from is that with sump pumps you hear often a banging noise, almost like a water hammer, that happens when the water's coming back down that hasn't run out of the house or whatever you're doing with it, and so sometimes that can be noisy or annoying. So we've created over time a quiet check valve that's basically a spring assisted valve. So what happens is that when the water comes back down, there's a valve that's assisting the flapper to close so that you don't get that hard banging happening. So those are just two different types of differences that we offer, and quiet has become a much more popular valve over the years because of that sound that often people don't like to hear.
If you are familiar with Boshart products, you may hear us using the terms sediment filter or spin-out filter and sediment separator. While these terms are practically interchangeable, there is some minor difference that should be taken into account. While both a spin-out sediment filter and spin-out sediment separator perform the same function, catching sediment in a pre-filter step that would have otherwise allowed sediment to pass through to your finishing filter, the difference is that a sediment separator has a longer bowl than a sediment filter, which allows it to collect more sediment before needing to be manually purged using the PVC ball valve. The cartridge that these two devices use are exactly the same. On Boshart's 1.5 inch and 2 inch spin-out sediment separators, if desired, a half-size cartridge can be used to allow even more space for sediment to build up before needing to be purged.
One of the issues with brass is its poor corrosion resistance under harsh water conditions. Under normal conditions, brass is susceptible to corrosion, but in poor water conditions, it's like leaving a steak in a pan of cola. As a result, stainless steel is being adopted more and more in plumbing everywhere due to the variations of water quality. And you might be thinking, well, plumbers rarely had this problem with copper before, and you'd be right. But that's because copper and brass aren't the same thing. Any 5-year-old can tell you that. Back in the day, when you had a system that was made up completely of copper pipe, the corrosion was more evenly spread across the whole system. Because the PEX in your plumbing system is plastic, there's only one place for the corrosion to go in your system. I'll wait while you figure that out. Stainless steel's corrosion resistance will outperform brass every single time. So unless you're fine with the idea of your installations failing you, well, we think the better option is apparent. To learn more about stainless steel PEX, visit Boshart.com.
Why don't we take a closer look at the different materials available and why you may want to choose one over the other. First is stainless steel. Stainless steel tank tees are typically cast from 304 stainless steel. They are extremely durable and very corrosion resistant. Their strength eliminates risk of stress cracking when you thread them into a female connection. Stainless steel tank tees are typically more expensive compared to other materials, but since they have no risk of corrosion, you will not have to replace them as often. Brass tank tees are less expensive than stainless steel, and they can also be installed in most areas. The downside is that brass tank tees are not as corrosion resistant and are not recommended in areas where the water is highly corrosive. If the water quality is poor, it is recommended that you would install a stainless steel tank tee. Galvanized tank tees are less expensive compared to brass and stainless steel, and you will commonly find them being used on a galvanized pressure tank that does not have a bladder. They are basically used to eliminate any risk of galvanic corrosion between dissimilar metals. It is important to ensure that galvanized fittings and nipples are allowed to be used in your area, as some plumbing codes do not allow it. Be sure to confirm the galvanized tank tees meet all the plumbing code requirements before installing. The last material is PVC. PVC tank tees are very resistant to corrosion because they do not contain any metal. The downside is they may not be as durable as metal tank tees, and they are not available in as many configurations. PVC tank tees are a good alternative if you are on a budget or don't need anything heavy duty.
So, cool idea, but I'm not really interested. And this is somebody that, it might not be a sale today or whatever, but this is somebody just to keep on bringing this up to. If they do this type of plumbing and they use PEX fittings, we've seen it where we introduce this product to some people, and today it's, we don't see a market for it, or we don't want to use it, or whatever it might be, whatever the reason is. But then 3 months later, they say, hey, remember that thing that you talked about? I actually have a situation where I think this could be really useful. So I think it's one of those things just to keep on bringing up and helping them remind them. And then the other part of it is maybe asking them a better question about, okay, well, you're not interested. Is there a specific reason why you're not interested? Which might get you back to some of the other objections we talked about. Maybe they're not interested because of the cost, right? And then you can go back to addressing that. So those are the 3 common objections I would expect you would hear, but they're ones that are very easy to handle. And again, sometimes people just say no, or they don't want to change for the sake of it, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good product, and we shouldn't keep on advocating for them to look at things that are going to help make their jobs better and ultimately serve their customers better.
You're not a dummy, so I don't need to explain to you that water hammer is when a shock wave is sent through your plumbing system, caused by closing a valve too quickly, sending a spike of pressure back up your pipes. I also don't need to explain that this causes stress on your pipes and all your beautiful fittings. Both the plastic and brass fittings had a catastrophic failure. But if you take a closer look at the stainless steel fitting, it didn't even break. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure that 240 is more than 140 and 90 combined. To learn more about stainless steel PEX, visit Boshart.com.
Now, by far, what we believe sets a Boshart gear clamp apart from any other gear clamp on the market is the extensive testing that our quality assurance department does. We have 4 different types of tests that we perform regularly to ensure that our gear clamps always exceed standards. Boshart has also ensured that our clamps are certified by UPC ANSI SAE J1670-2008 standard. The standard requires that the minimum torque is 50 pounds per inch, but Boshart gear clamps are tested by UPC to 60 pounds per inch. The 4 different types of tests that our QA department performs are the XRF alloy analyzer, the free torque turning, a size test, and a torque test. This is how you know that you're getting the best possible gear clamp.
And then finally, we're going to talk about some sales opportunities. So based on some of the key features around tank tees and packages, how can we really help you guys drive those sales to get the ratio to where it should be? So the first one is pretty obvious. If there's a pressure tank being sold, then there is very, very likely a tank tee and/or accessories being sold with it. There are some times when a contractor might come in and just buy a pressure tank, and he'll take the old tank tee out and put it back in and not change anything out. I understand that, but I would say that majority of the time they're at least going to be putting something new in, whether it's the tank tee or a new pressure switch or a new gauge, for example, whatever it might be. Those are things to just ask the contractor about to make sure that they're not forgetting or that they're buying from you, because if they're buying a pressure tank from you and none of the accessories and your ratio is vastly different than ours is, then that tells me that they're obviously going somewhere else to buy that stuff, and you guys are missing out on an opportunity to, one, lock more of that customer's business in, as well as you're missing out on a massive margin opportunity, because those small accessory items versus the tank are going to really drive the profitability of this whole sale.
The last factor to consider is if you should purchase a tank tee package or just the tank tee on its own. A tank tee's main function when it's attached to a pressure tank is to allow other important parts of a water system to be attached in a straightforward manner. Typically, components of a tank tee package are boiler drains, relief valves, nipples, pressure gauges, and pressure switches. Similar to a tank tee, there are many variations that each of these components come in. There is no such thing as a standard pressure gauge or relief valve. As a result, you would need to be certain that you're choosing the right combination of components for your water system. The easiest way to ensure that you are purchasing the correct material, size, and differential is to purchase a tank tee package. By buying the tank tee package, you eliminate the possibility of purchasing the wrong part, wasting your time and potentially wasting your money. The tank tee package will also ensure that the parts will work perfectly with your tank tee and water system.
A brief history on brass and plastic PEX fittings. Like I said, the battle between brass and plastic PEX fittings has been going on for years. There are some plumbing contractors who swear by one or the other. Heck, you might even be one of them. And there are some contractors who use one or the other based on the job. When referring to brass, a lot of plumbers use it because they think it's stronger than the alternatives. What do you think? Is metal stronger than plastic? Another concern contractors have with using plastic PEX fittings is the thicker wall requirements under ASTM 2159 standard, resulting in a decreased interior diameter, which is all just a very technical way of saying plastic PEX fittings reduce the flow of water. On the other hand, metal fittings, which include both brass and stainless steel, have larger flow passages, which keep your flow fast and free. If you're using plastic PEX fittings on an entire house, for example, this has a chance of causing significant flow restriction by the time you turn on the tap. And I don't know about you, but my wife is never complaining that the pressure in the shower is too good.
Honey!
Now I could show you charts and diagrams to point out how much flow you lose by using plastic PEX fittings instead of metal ones. But I'll trust you're smart enough to put two and two together. You don't need charts or some handsome devil in a video to inform you. Thicker tubes mean less passes through. To learn more about stainless steel PEX, visit Boshart.com.
Every plumbing and water well wholesaler wants more success, more growth, more sales. But how do I actually do that? Well, bringing on a new product might seem like enough, but it won't help you if you don't know how to effectively sell the product. Wouldn't it be great if everyone on your sales team was an expert in product knowledge of everything on your shelves, responding to the customer objections on products, recognizing upsell opportunities every day? Introducing Boshart Accelerator, the innovative new platform to turn your sales team into product sales experts in 30 minutes or less. With product-based modules that include video training and incentives for graduating the courses, we make learning about selling plumbing and water well products something that they'll actually want to do. You wanted more success, more growth, more sales, right? Fast track your business's growth with Boshart Accelerator. To learn more, head to boshart.com/Boshart Accelerator.
PVC tank tees are a very competitive option compared to the materials I mentioned. PVC tank tees are extremely resistant to corrosion and are a very suitable alternative to metal. They are not near as durable compared to metal tank tees, and there are not as many configurations available. You must install PVC tank tees properly with the use of a high-quality thread sealant paste rather than PTFE tape, and to be sure not to over-tighten. If over-tightened, the PVC tank tee is much more susceptible to cracking compared to the other materials. Okay, now let's talk about galvanic corrosion. Galvanic corrosion is an electrochemical process where a metal corrodes when it is connected to a metal through electrolyte. It occurs when one metal is protected and the other metal is corroded. Although stainless steel tank tees are more expensive compared to brass, if dissimilar metals are connected and galvanic corrosion occurs, the cost of needing to replace the brass tank tee will cost more compared to purchasing the stainless steel tank tee in the first place. You can prevent galvanic corrosion from occurring by connecting similar metals. Not only is it important that you connect similar metals, but it is also important to properly connect the tank tee by using the correct thread sealant, especially when working with stainless steel.
Fundamentally, sales is about creating value for your customers. And so when I say creating value, what does that mean? So the first part of that is that you create value for customers by understanding your customer's business better than they do so that you can provide key insights and solutions. So again, going back to what I just said, being able to deliver insights to contractors is one of the most fundamental things that's important in being a great salesperson. And it might be a little bit scary when I say that you need to know your customer's business better than they do to offer insights, but just let me give you an example. As somebody who works with lots of contractors every single day, you are exposed to how the great and the not so great contractors succeed or don't succeed in business. You are seeing all aspects of how they purchase, the types of jobs they do, all the things that they put together in their systems, and you're exposed to that on a pretty big scale. And I think the big thing to remember when you're in sales is don't underestimate the perspective that you gain by seeing all of that in other people's business, because that is really what is going to make you have the ability to add so much value to contractors, is that seeing all of that stuff that's happening and seeing the market in a different way than they do. That gives you a unique perspective that although you may not have, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years of experience that you feel you need to have to offer key insights for your contractors, don't be deceived, because you know a lot more than you think you do. And so just remember that and pay attention as you deal with other contractors and see what they're doing, understand the trends, understand and ask questions to them, because that gives you the ammunition to really help other contractors with key insights about how they can really win and have a better business than they do today.
Consider this. With PEX fittings, the insert goes inside the PEX tube, which is naturally going to restrict the flow of water passing through. So you need to be conscious of the size of whatever you're putting in there so it'll flow as smoothly as possible. The thicker the fitting, the less flow there'll be in the pipe. And while there's a time and a place for a thicker insert, your plumbing system isn't one of them. Now you might not be thinking that a single insert fitting being too thick will matter much, and you'd be right, but when you're dealing with an entire plumbing system and dozens of fittings, the reduced flow really adds up. Count that as another point for metal. But while brass and stainless have the same inner diameter, the shape of the fitting also plays an important role. Here's a riddle. When you're out on your Harley and you're taking a turn, is it easier to take your turn wide or turn on a dime? You're right, that's not a riddle at all. You're not a BMXer, you're a man's man. You take your turns wide. The same principle applies in plumbing. Just like you, water likes a smooth ride too. So our sweep design reduces turbulence you find in 90-degree elbows. This makes sure water keeps its speed around corners just like you like to do. To learn more about stainless steel PEX, visit Boshart.com.
Ow, what the? Who the hell was that? Ow, what? Thanks for what? Who? What? Son of a...
Boshart Industries. Choose Boshart because you never know what might happen if you don't.